Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing well. We are continuing on with our autumn themed videos and we're going owly, okay? We're going woodland owls, and these absolutely beautiful silicone inlays and silicone mold were sent to me by Dennis over at Resin Supplies Den. So thank you so much, Dennis. Honestly, I am so sorry as well because Dennis sent these back in June and I knew I needed to save them for my autumn series, so thank you for your patience, Dennis. If you are interested in the silicone inlays and the silicone mold that I'm going to use in today's video, then do check out my description box. I'm going to link Resin Supplies Den on Facebook down in my description box, and you need to hit up Dennis for these beautiful molds. So he sent me two large owl silicone inlays and then a smaller inlay as well as a matching mold. So the mold is a direct kind of copy of the silicone inlay, which is pretty cool. And the first project I'm going to do is using the owl silicone mold. I'm going to use all of these gorgeous warm kind of golds and browns. These are actually mica powders by Arteza. It has been a minute since I've used their mica powders, but they have got a gorgeous range of autumn colors, and I just decided to go in with some creams and browns. Now here's the thing, you guys know I don't generally do things that take ages, but I did decide that I want this owl to have gorgeous like ombre feathers. So each and every individual single feather in this mold, I actually use my micro brush to get me some really fine ombre details. That is why this is pretty sped up for you guys, because trust me, it was a process and I know you don't want to sit through 15 minutes. Yes, it took 15 minutes to individually place the mica powder down into each individual feather. But this mold is so beautiful, so intricate and so detailed. I knew I had to do something special and not just whack a load of powder in there and make it completely one colour. So I decided to go for a light cream, going down into a gold and then down into a darker brown at the bottoms and the tops of each individual feather. And I then got a brush and I brushed them all out completely. So that did take time. So I hope you can forgive me for the sped up video. Now, believe it or not, this section here is not sped up. I was just dabbing my paintbrush quite fast. What I want is for those colours to kind of stay in the areas that I've put them. So I figured if I dab directly down onto the mold, then the colours will just kind of get planted. They will get planted in place. Now we have got some gold here, so it kind of looks like the silicone mold hasn't really taken the colour, but it has taken the colour. You just have to trust that when you put a lot of mica into a mold, it's there, but sometimes it looks like it's not there. Like, I can't explain it, but until you do it, you will get it. You'll get exactly what I mean. I actually then put a load of cream. So I finished the whole mold off with some cream and I dusted that cream over every millimeter of the silicone mold, really just to make sure that there were no gaps in my mica powder ring. Is that a thing? I don't know. To back it off, I'm actually going to be using the Polycraft Black. This is a polyurethane resin. It is from I Love Mixed Media, and the link for I Love Mixed Media alongside your discount code will be in the description box below. I'm not an affiliate, I just have the product and you guys get the discount. So this is a polyurethane, it's not epoxy resin. If you are new here, you might not have heard of it, but it is a 2-part polyurethane resin, part AB, measurable by weight, and it is a 20 to 30 second mix time. Yes, you heard that right. If you're new here and you've never heard of this stuff, this is a super fast mix time. This is real time. I've not sped this up. This is exactly how long we mix it for before pouring. Yes, 20 to 30 seconds. Once you've poured it, you can actually demold within 10 to 20 minutes. It's so fast. And did I spill it everywhere? Yes, I made a huge mess. I poured it straight out of the mold, but I saved you the journey I went through to scrape it up and clean it all up. And this is what we are looking like. At this point, I knew I would need to go in with my micro brush tool because there's a lot of detail in this mold, and of course it's the 90-degree angles where the air bubbles tend to get trapped. So I did run around the whole of the inside edge just to dislodge any air bubbles that might have got the idea that they wanted to stay, and I don't want them here. So the micro brush does a great job. You could of course use a cocktail stick or the end of a paintbrush if it's thin. Any thin kind of tool that's just gonna get down into those 90-degree edges, you're good to go. You don't necessarily need a micro brush, but it did a great job, and this is what it's looking like. Don't ask me why I started tapping it. Honestly, I made such a mess. I can't explain the mess. What you're seeing on screen is really nothing compared to the real mess. I did get a wet wipe and I just tried to wipe off the edges because this is where I just missed the mold completely. It's almost like I wanted to pour it onto the table this day. It was just one of those days. It happens. 30 minutes later and it is time to demold. So I'm just pulling it away from the edges kind of gently because the detail in the edges of these feathers is so much. I didn't want to risk kind of breaking them or snapping them. I'm sure it wouldn't, but again, I've not worked with a mold this intricate and I love it. I have to say the first thing is that the cream kind of got lost. I think the gold and the brown took over, which makes sense because gold is so close to cream. They kind of merged together and created this absolutely gorgeous design. But I do love the fact that I took my time and I definitely have the ombre in there. But what I will say is that if you're using a really light mica powder like cream, black background is not the one. What I really should have done, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but what I really should have done was fill the back with maybe a cream or a brown resin, because when you're using such a light mica powder, black is just going to make it a lot darker than you may have wanted it. And what I'm doing here, it's a bit crazy and a bit out there. We can see this as two things. It's one of those kind of sizes. It's really massive, too big for a keyring, but then maybe too big for a necklace, but I decided to go for it anyway. We're going to make the funkiest, coolest, massive owl necklace you ever did see. How gorgeous is this? Now, I was toying with the idea of also making it into a bag charm. I think it would make a gorgeous bag charm. Maybe if you've got like a brown leather bag hanging off of both of those kind of sides. You could also top coat it with a clear coat of resin, but I was loving the matte. It kind of had a much more organic, natural feel in a matte finish than if it would if I had a top coat of resin on it. Next up, we're going to use one of the owl inlays. Now, I've just cleaned the inlay with some tape just to make sure it is going to kind of statically stick to my silicone mold. The silicone mold is the medium round geode edged tray mold from Moulds and Shapes. This mold I've had since day one. Since day one of working with Moulds and Shapes, this is one of their earliest molds that they did, and I still love them, especially with the geode edge. It just makes it extra special. I just got my ruler out to make sure it was kind of central, but you know me guys, just put it in and hope for the best. I'm then going to use some of these gorgeous autumn leaf glitters that Yvonne from Resin Supplies Den sent me. This is one big massive shout out to Resin Supplies Den. I'm almost at the end of these glitters, but I didn't want to use too many. I just wanted a hint of these, so I'm just placing them around individually with my finger and I'm just pressing them down in place until I'm happy with the placement. Once I was happy, I put as many in as I figured it could kind of cope with, and then it was time to mix my Jesmonite. What I did do on the owl, I just used some glitter dust from the other glitter that Yvonne sent me just to sprinkle over the owl. Now, if you are new here or if you've never used Jesmonite, Jesmonite is really good at picking up glitter. It actually picks up all of the glitter that you leave in your mold, as opposed to foils. Sometimes it leaves some foil behind, but it's so good at picking up glitter that I knew it would pick these up. And once sealed, those glitters are not moving. Not unless you get down there with a needle and pick them out. They will stay in place. I'm using a combination of chocolate and cinnamon pigments from the Homeware Design Company. They are my go-to pigments for my Jesmonite and all of my eco pores. And look at this. Oh my god, it just looks like melted chocolate, and it makes me want to actually bake a cake or make some like Rice Krispie cakes or something. But it's such a gorgeous brown, and I knew that not only would it work with the owl theme, the woodland theme, the autumn theme, but it would really make those glitters pop, and those leaf glitters from Yvonne over at Resin Supplies Den that I put in there earlier. What you see me doing here is just going in and around again to that inside edge. Because this is a geode mold, there's a lot of detail around that edge. A lot of areas where Jesmonite could really get trapped and create huge crater pockets, and I don't want that. I then brushed over the silicone inlay just to make sure that the Jesmonite got down to every little detail in that inlay. And this is what we are looking like 30 minutes later on demold. I'm loving the glitter, guys. I think the brown was the absolute right choice to make these leaves kind of pop. And look at this inlay. I love it so much. The detail is so beautiful. Honestly, the intricacy. But Dennis made these himself, and they are available over on Resin Supplies Den. I will put the details down below, of course, for Dennis if you're interested in these owls at all, the silicone mold or the silicone inlays. They are stunning. What I would love to try with this kind of inlay is to just make a pot, you know, the giant pots, and maybe pour some Jesmonite over the inlay and then stick the inlay to the side of the pot. Do you remember like I did last year with the ammonite inlays on the side of a pot? I think that would be pretty cool. Definitely something to try in the future. I am going to be finishing this tray off using my gold deco colour pen. Now, honestly, this could be a tray, this could be a clock. You could drill a hole and add a clock piece, or it could just be a decorative piece for your autumn decor. Like you could have it up on the side with some pumpkins around it, or any little autumnal kind of interior decor that you have. It could be anything, but to be honest, I will probably have it in my kitchen. I've got a little area in my kitchen where I've got some pieces on display, like my autumn sign that I made with the X tool. I've got some fabric pumpkins, a wicker pumpkin, and some little Jesmonite pumpkins. And I think all together alongside some pine cones, it would just make a really nice home decor piece. But you could also add handles and make it into a little tray, or it could be a trivet for your kitchen for putting your pots and pans on, because Jesmonite is pretty heat proof, and once sealed, this would make a great trivet. It would also be beautiful in the center of a trinket tray, but honestly, it's such a massive inlay. I didn't have a trinket tray that fits it, but either way, look, gold eyes. Do you like the transition? Do you like the transition? I think the gold pen definitely works and really makes everything pop. You could, of course, highlight the owl any way you want. You could add mica powder to the inlay. You could paint it afterwards. You could add so much more gold pen, so much more glitter. Really, what you do with the inlay is entirely up to you, but the possibilities are endless. I hope you really love it. Let me know which one you think is your favorite, and I doubt I will be wearing the necklace, guys. It's absolutely massive on me, but I think it's a cool idea to have an oversized necklace. I think this will most likely end up on the side of my brown leather bag because I just think it looks super cool. But let me know your thoughts, and all of the details you need for these inlays or molds will be in the description box. And a massive thank you to Dennis for sending them over to me. I've really enjoyed using them, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.